You are not an anime guy, but to change your taste from movies and series for some time, you have decided to watch this very famous anime people around have been talking about. For a couple of days, you have been reluctant, but then you see that this anime at this time has been recognized as the most demanded show in the world by a bunch of credited boards with almost 52 times more popularity than any other average show in the United States. You become curious, so you finally decided to watch it, and just 20 minutes into the show, you say it to yourself, this is a great show. Hajime Isayama's Attack on Titan is the only anime or a TV show till now which has made me say that in such a short period of time. Attack on Titan obviously has a great story, no doubt about it, but it is not just the story that has casted the magic on its viewers. Indeed, it is the evolution of the story with its characters and the way in which this absolutely mind-blowing story has been told. From each nail-biting, fast-paced episodes which keep getting unimaginably better as the story progresses, to the jaw-dropping animation of Wit and Mappa Studios, to the insane story arcs and unimaginable character developments, to the god-tier music by legendary composers like Hiroyuki Sawano and Kota Yamamoto. In this video, we will discuss and analyze Attack on Titan to know how already it is termed as the modern masterpiece, not just only among the anime fans but even all around the world. So the story of Attack on Titan sets in a fictional world where humanity is now living inside huge surrounding walls to protect themselves from the ruthless man-eater titans living outside these walls. From the start of the story, we are shown a caged yet beautiful world of humanity inside these walls. This is where the genius storyteller Hajime Isayama, the creator of this epic saga, casts his magic spell on its audience by setting a distant, unique world to create a sense of belonging and interest among his audience. This technique of creating a different fairy tale world is not something new, but is commonly used by the fiction writers. The most famous example is of the magic world of Hogwarts created by J.K. Rowling in her magnum opus Harry Potter. Some other very famous examples are Middle-earth in Lord of the Rings, Narnia from the Chronicles of Narnia, Westeros from Game of Thrones, the Land of Oz from the Wizard of Oz, and the list keeps on going. Isayama knew that in order to create an epic, everlasting tale, he had to take this conventional path and give an identity to his story where the intricacies of the plot will gradually unfold. To a person who haven't watched this show will definitely think about AOT as a show with a simple and linear storyline, where the protagonist wants to become so powerful that he can kill the titans and save his people eventually. The typical shonen motivational and training story arcs. Even I thought the same about it before watching it, and boy, I was so wrong with that prejudice. As the story progresses, the plot of Attack on Titan becomes exponentially complex and intricate. Different themes gradually seep into this show, like sacrifice, betrayal, guilt, survival, politics, suspense, salvation, enlightenment, horrors of war, humanity, racism, retribution, and revenge. The amalgamation of such complex themes, strong human emotions, and even usage of cryptic memories and time travels in the final season to weave everything together catapults this amazing show close to deep philosophy, yet somehow keeps the audience entertained at the edge of their seats with its amazingly crafted story. Season 1 of the show sets up the initial essence of the story. The strong bond of Eren, Mikasa and Armin, lots of electrifying high-class action and some sick odium gear moments, heart-wrenching emotions, introduction of the characters, their dreams and hopes, and many unanswered questions. Till the end of Season 1, AOT was amazing, but it was still not special. There is no differentiating factor from other animes at that time. Also, the gap between Season 1 and Season 2 was of 4 freaking years, which resulted in substantial loss of the hype it created after Season 1. To make it a special show, something crazy and unthinkable was needed to happen, and then in the 6th episode of Season 2, there it was. One of the greatest and most shocking reveals in the history of anime, Reiner and Berthold transformation scene. Probably one of the most famous and shocking betrayals of all time. For the first time ever, I saw a writer being extremely creative by not being creative at all. Just casually revealing their identity was a massive shock to everyone watching. Almost every one of us read those damn subtitles twice by rewinding the scene thinking to have misread it, and by the time we recovered from the shock, the legendary transformation with the god tier music and animation took place, leaving the whole world just speechless. After this scene, AOT as a show never turned back and took off, shattering all the records ever created by any anime with its insane mind-numbing stories, suspense and plot twists. The story slowly started to shift from focusing on Titans as being the biggest threat to humanity to humans itself as the biggest threat. The arc focusing Historia and her father Rodrice, Kenny and Yuri contained some amazing deep philosophy of political power, human desires, enlightenment and retribution. Until now, most of the viewers thought that AOT has reached its peak, but as we know that there was no limit for this show now. The return to Shiganshina arc, where the battle was to take place once again, presented its audience with mind-boggling experience and secured their place as one of the highest rated episodes ever on IMDb, even surpassing greatest episodes of giants like Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones. The brutalities and horrors of war and hopelessness, Erwin's character growth and bone-chilling final speech before his death, Armin's bravery and sacrifice for his comrades. But what was even better than perfection was the silence presented throughout the episode of Midnight Sun, where Levi had to make the toughest decision of his life whether to save Armin or his friend Erwin. Not using any background music and just depending upon the raw emotions of the talented voice artists allowed the creators to submerge their audience into that very moment of utter dilemma with the characters. From the very beginning of the show, both Armin and Erwin had a dream. Armin wanted to see the sea and Erwin wanted to know the truth. Many people questioned the choice of Armin over Commander Erwin. To be honest, to me it didn't matter at all. For me, what mattered was both of them abandoned their dream for the sake of humanity, believing that there was still hope for mankind. Until the end of season 3, all of our questions about the Titans and the outside world were answered. The dream of Eren and Armin to kill all the Titans and confront the vastness of the sea became a reality. Most of the people thought that AOT has reached its end. It had already covered the journey from being a conventional anime to being a special one, but to become a legendary masterpiece, to keep its tales resonate into the distant future, it had to now break every convention that was set up into the world of storytelling up to this point. To make AOT an epic example that not all the stories end on a happy ending, and to resonate it with everyone, Isayama had to take a bold step that rarely most of the prolific writers take during the peak of their content. And then after the return to Shiganshina arc, Isayama completely changed the narrative of the story. Eren realized that the freedom he always wanted was just a fabricated lie, that there were people across the sea who still were his enemies, hating him and his people for no reason. He was still a slave to the hatred which the outside world bestowed upon him. He knew that the world will never allow him his birthright freedom and would crush him mercilessly if he ever asked for it. The relentless hate corrupted his mind, and to end this vicious cycle of hatred, he decided to destroy the whole world. The universe of AOT expanded with introduction of a whole new world and characters. Themes of racism and war horrors curtained the plot. The story became darker and brutal than ever. From being the hope of humanity, Eren had now become a cold-hearted, bloodthirsty monster he had always hated to be. The perspectives and lives of the characters who were once declared the villains of the show were presented. Zeke came up with his own plan of euthanizing the people of Paradis. Armin, Mikasa, John and Connie had to commit the crimes they always despised, and feeling of grief, sorrow, fear, chaos and destruction engulfed the entire world. And all of this over the head craziness wasn't enough. Isayama again propelled the mind of his viewers above the roof and beyond the stars by writing down one of the greatest plot twist and climax scene that was ever imagined by anyone, thereby not just initiating the rumbling into the world of Attack on Titan but even into the anime community.
何をしてる？立てよ父さん。 忘れたのか。何をしにここに来たのか。犬に食われた妹に報いるためだろう。復権派の仲間に、ダイナに、クルーガーに報いるために。殺すな！小さな子も潰した！かまけぬ！レイスケを殺したぞ！父親以外はこれでいいのか？これでよかったのか？
The complete plot of Attack on Titan was truly mesmerizing and something to dive into and analyze. Isayama has shown that he is a master of foreshadowing by scattering all the significant events across the whole show, some of which you might miss during your first watch, but this skill of foreshadowing is what makes this show highly rewatchable. Each and every event in this show is connected to one another, the present, the past, the future, everything. These intricate connections of each event show that Hajime Isayama had already completed the story inside his mind before even penning down the first chapter of the show. I won't spoil the story, but those who have finished the manga of Attack on Titan know how beautifully the first panel of the first chapter has been directly connected to the last chapter. Such masterful writing by this great writer has been the soul of this story. Even the pacing of the story in each episode is remarkable. So much happened in each 23 minutes long episode. Each episode narrates incredible amount of this complex story and doesn't even feel rushed at any point. Like, take an example of season 4 episode 21 from the show. This episode narrates the complete origin of the Titans and their founder Ymir Fritz within minutes. It even shows the beginning of the rumbling and it doesn't even feel rushed at any point. This episode feels like reading a poem where a huge chunk of story is presented to the reader within few lines. Now that is incredible writing. Everyone is already familiar with the fact that Attack on Titan doesn't just have great story but also some of the greatest characters in the world of anime. Like, seriously, the character developments in this show is phenomenal and some of the best I have ever seen. I have heard some writers saying that most of the time the characters and their ideologies form the progress of the story and not just its writers, and hence great characters form great stories. The best part about the characters in Attack on Titan is that they are multi-layered and dynamic and react like real life people would react in a given scenario. They don't have a rigid set of principles and therefore they provided Isayama with the flexibility to write down nail-biting suspense and some of the most shocking scenes and turn of events in the history of anime. Each character in the story provides ton of significance to the plot. Jean's character was very interesting and was praised by almost all of the audience. In the beginning of the story, all he wanted was a rich, comfortable life inside Volshina serving the king. But as he faces various realities in his life, his perspectives change drastically as well as his decisions. His character grows extensively throughout the series. Historia initially was presented as a very timid side character, but then in season 3 we can see the rise in her significance for the story. She ultimately becomes the Queen of Paradise Island and further was used by Isayama as a link to connect the drastic turn of events from season 3 to season 4. The character of Scout Commander-in-Chief Erwin Smith was an example of true leadership for the audience. Character growth of Erwin shown towards the end of his life was phenomenal. His choice of abandoning his lifelong dream of knowing the truth of the world and then sacrificing himself for the sake of humanity was extremely powerful. One of the most interesting characters throughout the story was Reiner. The duality and complexity shown in his nature was interesting and tragic at the same time. His constant clash of thoughts between being a scout or being a warrior was so beautifully written that once the fandom, which considered him the villain of the show, turned him into the protagonist as the story progressed further. Reiner was the epitome to show how worse true horrors of wars are, how even the sinners must be given a chance to be heard, how there is a different perspective to each side of the coin. Similar treatment was given to the character of Zeke in the show. Why was he so cruel and what were his motives behind all the destruction he did? The best part was that Attack on Titan as a show never evaluated any character as good or bad. It just kept every possible perspective in front of us and gave us a freedom to decide. And if we are talking about the character developments, then how can we not include the character which completely revolutionized the art of characterization itself? The one character which catapulted AOT to the heights of greatness, the character which completely changed the perspective towards a protagonist, the one who was once humanity's biggest hope to the one becoming the greatest threats to humanity itself. And yes, he's none other than Eren Yeager. The character development of Eren Yeager is one of my favorite character developments of all time. I place his character journey in the top of my list with the character development of Walter White in Breaking Bad.
I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
その通りだ。ビリー・タイバーの言う通り、俺は悪者だ。世界を滅ぼしちまうかもしれない。
I personally love character-based plots. It shows how much a character can impact the narrative of the story. If you notice closely, Season 1 to Season 3 of AOT is completely story-driven. All the shocks and twists given to the audience were story-driven. But as the final season starts, Eren Yeager takes the complete control of the plot, and each incident onwards happens because of his involvement almost everywhere. Now all the shocks and twists are because of the actions of Eren Yeager. Do you remember how short-tempered and aggressive Eren was shown whenever anyone would try to take away his freedom from him? Well, we come to know that there was a reason behind this aggressive behavior. Eren actually was born with this nature in the first place. He was destined to seek freedom no matter what.
俺は生まれた時から俺のままだ。俺とあんたが同じだと思ってたようだが間違っている。他人から自由を奪われるくらいなら俺はそいつから自由を奪う。
The foreshadowing of birds in almost every episode clearly indicated this trait. He killing the goons mercilessly who kidnapped Mikasa also foreshadowed his nature. This clearly indicates that the ultimate underlying theme of Attack on Titan is not racism or horrors of war, and neither hope. It was actually freedom. This is the reason why he is even ready to destroy the whole world for the sake of being free. This is the reason why I was able to relate his character with that of Johann Liebert from the psychological thriller Monster. Some people are just born the way they are. There is no reason for them to be that way. They were probably just destined to be like that. There are definitely many animes with great music, but let's be honest that Attack on Titan has one of the greatest music scores of all time. The divine composition of Hiroyuki Sawano from Season 1 to Season 3 contributed a humongous role in the success of the anime, followed by Kota Yamamoto in the final season. Attack on Titan might have become successful without such god-tier music, but it would have never been any close to being a masterpiece it is today if those orgasmic musical scores wouldn't have supported those amazing scenes from the back. Same praise goes to the animators of the show. The level of meticulous details put into by the team of amazing animators of Wit Studios from Season 1 to Season 3 and the dark and gritty theme used by Mappa Studios to show the chaos and destruction in the final season were just perfect for the plot of the show. We all know the importance of a good animation by the example of Berserk. How one of the greatest dark fantasy stories of all time flopped and got cancelled due to severely bad animation. Still, a manga like Berserk hasn't got a good adaptation yet. This is the power of a good and honest animation studio for the success of a story. For me, Attack on Titan will always be very close to my heart. Honestly, this show has impressed me so much that I can keep talking about it for hours and still I won't be able to do justice in analyzing this goddamn amazing show. I don't care about the views I will get on this video. I just wanted to give a small tribute to this special show by describing the greatness it had in itself and the impact it had on me as a person. It feels like I grew up with its story and its characters. A deep deep sense of nostalgia covers me up whenever I see anything about Attack on Titan anywhere. I can't say exactly what this show has done to me, as it is hard to explain in simple words, but it definitely has casted a magic on me, and I hope this impact will remain on me forever. The knowledge it has provided me in terms of story and character writing, and the real life lessons it has taught by mirroring our own true world, despite being a fictional tale, is just phenomenal. There's no black or white, there's only grey, there's no good or bad, there are only perspectives. Reality is very vague and AOT describes it very well. After impacting so many lives across the anime community with its magical world, it should not be a shame to say that Attack on Titan is truly a modern masterpiece.